He said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. Just days after Selena Gomez announced her engagement to Benny Blanco, Justin Bieber posted a photo, not a statement, not a congratulation, just a picture with cryptic music playing in the background. The song? A haunting track about watching your past love walk down the aisle with someone else. Fans didn't just notice, they spiraled, because this wasn't just any breakup. This was the end of a love story that had gripped millions for over a decade. Selena wasn't just a couple, they were a public obsession, a symbol of young love tangled in fame, heartbreak, and second chances. And now it finally seemed like Selena was closing that chapter with someone new. But if she's moved on, why does it feel like Justin hasn't? The timing of his emotional posts, Hailey Bieber's quiet likes, and Selena's brutally honest new lyrics have set the internet on fire. Is Justin unraveling behind the scenes? Was Selena's album a farewell letter disguised as music? And amid, could this be the final nail in a story the world never really let go of? Because when you read between the lines and the posts, the lyrics, the silence, you start to wonder, is this really over? Or are we watching history repeat itself? All over again? Let's break it all down. Selena never had to name him. The pain in her voice said enough. Her song, Don't Wanna Cry, wasn't crafted for the charts, it was written for her own healing. And maybe unintentionally for everyone still watching the ruins of what once was Jelena. The line that shattered fans the most. Left. The door wide open for the whole world to see you. And you kissed her right in front of me like I wasn't even there. Didn't just feel personal. It felt historical. Like she was finally putting into words the moment millions had speculated about for years. The day Justin kissed Hailey in public while Selena was still holding pieces of the relationship they hadn't yet buried. And right on cue, as if summoned by memory or triggered by guilt, Justin posted a raw, unsettling message. I've got anger issues too, but I want to change. I don't want to react so much. No context, no reference. Just a sentence bleeding vulnerability. Some fans felt empathy, others felt suspicion. Why now? Why this? The fact that it came just hours after Selena's album dropped made it impossible not to connect the dots, especially when the very next day, he doubled down with a second post. I don't like changing for others. That's when the whispers turned into noise. Was he referencing his marriage? His past with Selena? Or the way he's been forced to fit into an image that never really felt like home? Hailey's reaction only poured gasoline on the fire. She liked the post, left a comment, seemed supportive on the surface. But online, nothing is ever taken at face value. Some read it as an act of loyalty, others saw desperation. A woman watching her husband emotionally unravel in real time, while the internet dissected every pause, every post, every breath. The tension didn't feel scripted. It felt like something bubbling over after years of pretending everything was fine. And Selena, she said nothing. Her silence was louder than anyone else's words. For fans, this wasn't new territory. It was a pattern. A cycle they'd watched unfold in Selena's music for over a decade. Back in 2013, Forget Forever painted a heartbreak behind a pop beat. It sounded upbeat, but the lyrics told a different story, one of someone being left behind by a love that used to feel reckless and free. In 2014, she dropped The Heart Wants What It Wants, a gut-wrenching ballad about love that lingers long after logic disappears. That track wasn't just another emotional single, it was a moment. The music video showed her crying alone, spiraling in a dark room, whispering through tears. Fans weren't just hearing her heartbreak, they were watching it unfold. The line, "You got me sipping on your cup of poison," didn't feel like metaphor. It felt like she was telling the world exactly how much it hurt to love someone who couldn't love her back. The same way, each song felt like a diary entry. Each lyric a confession. And through it all, Justin said little. He moved forward, or at least it looked that way from the outside. But now, with Selena fully stepping into a new chapter, engaged to Benny Blanco, releasing the most vulnerable album of her career, it seems like Justin's past is finally catching up to his present. His posts don't read like a man at peace. They read like someone haunted by a version of himself he thought he'd buried. And fans are paying attention. Not just to the music or the messages, but to the moments in between. The silence. The timing. The look in his eyes when Selena released Lose You to Love Me in 2019, it was like watching someone finally set fire to the last bridge they had been too afraid to cross. The song wasn't angry, it wasn't bitter. It was quiet, haunting, and resolute. I put you high up in the sky, and now you're not coming down. That one lyric held the weight of years of pedestal love, of illusions, of letting someone become your entire world until they slip away and leave you staring at a version of yourself you don't recognize. What made the moment even heavier was the timing. The song came just weeks after Justin announced his engagement to Hailey. For many, it felt like Selena's final goodbye, the one she had held inside for far too long. Later, in an interview with Ryan Seacrest, Selena admitted she couldn't have released the song while still living the heartbreak. It would have been too hard, too raw, too real. That moment of hesitation, that silence between the question and the answer said everything. It was never just a breakup. It was a slow unraveling of a girl who loved too deeply and lost herself somewhere along the way. And writing the song wasn't just catharsis, it was a return, a reclaiming of her own voice, her own story. After years of whispers, assumptions, and tabloid headlines, she finally spoke, not through interviews, but through truth poured into melody. But what makes the present even more powerful is that Selena didn't stay in the grief. She didn't cling to the pain. Instead, she grew. And when Benny Blanco came into the picture, it wasn't with grand gestures or flashy headlines. It was quiet, steady, the kind of love that doesn't demand attention because it's too busy. Feeling safe. Their connection wasn't born in the spotlight. It had been slowly building behind the scenes for years. They worked together musically, collaborated creatively, and somewhere along the way, something real started growing. Not the chaotic kind of love that burns fast and leaves ashes behind, but the kind that feels like calm after a storm. When Selena confirmed their relationship, it wasn't with a press release or a photo shoot. It was a single comment on a fan page. Facts, one word. That's all it took to break the internet. And what followed wasn't a curated PR campaign, it was authenticity. Benny calling her absolutely everything. Selena posting unfiltered moments. Their love wasn't polished, but it was present. For the first time in a long time, fans weren't watching Selena survive. They were watching her bloom, and yet, as beautiful as her new chapter is, the ghost of the past still lingers. Every new post from Justin, every quiet reaction from Hailey, every cryptic lyric, they all get measured against the shadow of Jelena. Because for a generation that grew up watching them fall in and out of love, it's hard to let go of a story that never really ended, just paused. The day Selena Gomez's engagement went public, it should have been a celebration, the moment she finally closed in a decade-long love story and stepped fully into her future. But instead of quiet joy, the internet exploded into chaos. Wow. Many fans cheered, flooded her comments with heart emojis and cries of, "Finally." Another group, loud, emotional, and deeply attached, took the news like a betrayal. To them, this wasn't just a relationship update. It was the end of a fantasy they'd held on to for years, the idea that maybe, somehow, someday, she and Justin would find their way back to each other. And for some, the issue wasn't just that Selena moved on, it was who she moved on with, Benny Blanco. The name alone sparked controversy. Social media quickly turned toxic. Some users attacked his appearance, claiming he wasn't attractive enough for someone like Selena. The comments were harsh, shallow, and relentless. A viral post mocking his looks gained traction in hours, followed by a storm of similar remarks. Benny, in his usual fashion, didn't lash out. He responded with humor, posting a self-deprecating video joking about how he looks like a melted candle. Some laughed. Others didn't, because beneath the jokes, the bullying was unmistakable. And it didn't stop there. Old wounds were ripped open. Fans resurfaced clips from his awkward 2020 interview, the one where he seemed to take a jab at Selena's rare beauty line. At the time, it had sparked drama. Now it was weaponized. They dragged up past TikTok spats, pulled quotes out of context, and painted Benny as unworthy, as if Selena's pain and recovery required someone more poetic, more polished, more symbolic. But here's the thing. Love doesn't care about aesthetics or fan fiction. It doesn't wait for approval. And Selena made it clear in every word, every comment, every look, Benny wasn't a placeholder. He was peace. She called him absolutely everything, and her fans, the real ones, the ones who watched her cry through the heart wants what it wants, who held on during Lose You to Love Me, who waited through the silence, they saw the glow, not the kind that comes from a ring or a headline, the kind that comes from being loved softly, without condition. Still, the divide was real. On one side, fans celebrated her joy, a woman who had finally healed, finally chosen herself, and found someone who treated her with quiet, unwavering affection. On the other side, there were whispers. What if it doesn't last? What if this is just a phase? What if after everything, she still belongs with Justin? Because that's the thing about history, even when it's over, it echoes. Just days after the internet was flooded with news of Selena's engagement, Justin Bieber vanished, not completely, but emotionally. There were no official comments, no statements, just a quiet shift in energy that anyone paying attention could feel. And then, almost suddenly, he reappeared. A vacation photo. Palm trees, sand, Hailey by his side. At first glance, it looked like a typical influencer-style moment. Sunlight, smiles, an escape. But fans weren't looking at the picture. They were listening to the music. The song playing in the background was All My Ghosts by Lizzie McAlpine, a haunting ballad about trying to move on while still haunted by past love. One lyric in particular felt like it ripped through the facade. I can see it now, the wedding of the year. And when all my ghosts disappear, in isolation it's poetic. But when paired with that photo, that timing and that history, it didn't feel random, it felt like a whisper. A confession without words. Was Justin watching Selena move forward? Truly forward, while his heart still hadn't caught up? Theories exploded across social media. Was he sending a subtle message? Was the song choice intentional, or was it his subconscious slipping through the cracks? Some fans called it a coincidence. Others said it was far too specific, especially coming from someone who's carefully curated his public image for years. He didn't post a caption. He didn't tag Hailey. Just a mood, a melody, and a million interpretations. And then, just like that, he pulled back again. No follow-ups, no clarifications. But the silence didn't calm anyone, it only made the noise louder. Especially when you considered how quiet Hailey had been too. No public statement. No celebration. Just a few likes. A few comments. Nothing that said we're fine. Nothing that said this doesn't affect us. For some fans, it looked like damage control, not confidence. Like they were holding it together while the rest of the world watched their foundation quietly shift. People began looking for signs everywhere. Justin's old posts, Hailey's subtle reactions, the timing of every lyric, every image. And suddenly, it wasn't just about Selena and Benny anymore. It was about a man who might have everything, a wife, fame, a life most people dream of, and still feel like something slipped through his fingers long. A go-dot, because when your past love writes an album that sounds like a funeral and a rebirth, at the same time, and the world celebrates her healing without you in the frame, you don't need to say anything. The silence says it all. To understand why this story won't die, why fans are still watching every lyric, every caption, every glance. You have to go back to 2010, when rumors first whispered that Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber were more than just friends. She called him her little brother back then, brushing off speculation with a laugh and a camera-ready smile. But that didn't last. Soon after, they were spotted together in public, hands brushing, eyes lingering, and by early 2011, they made it official at the Vanity Fair Oscar party. One red carpet moment was all it took. Just like that, Jelena was born, but this wasn't just in love. It was global. They weren't a couple, they were a phenomenon. Every post, every tweet, every blurry paparazzi photo became part of a narrative millions were obsessed with. For some, it was romantic. For others, it was a reflection of how messy, hopeful, and all-consuming first love can be. But behind the smiles, cracks were already forming. In 2014, rumors erupted that Selena had found messages from Kylie Jenner on Justin's phone. That was the breaking point. They ended things. But like magnets with unfinished business, they kept returning. Breaking up, reuniting, breaking up again. Fans stopped seeing it as a relationship. It became a cycle. Beautiful, destructive, addictive. In 2015, Justin stirred the pot with a single Instagram post, a throwback photo of him and Selena captioned, "Our love is unconditional." That one sentence sent the internet into a frenzy. Were they getting back together again? Was this a sign? But like always, the reunion fizzled. The love was still there, but the timing, the pressure, the fame, none of it lined up for years. It felt like we were watching two people trapped in a loop. Selena pouring her pain into music, Justin trying to outrun his past in new relationships. And then came Hailey. In 2018, Justin shocked everyone by marrying her just months after rekindling things with Selena one last time. It felt abrupt, like he slammed a door that was still half open. For Selena fans, it was heartbreaking. For Justin's fans, it was confusing. And for those who had followed the story from the beginning, it felt incomplete because love like that, the kind that unfolds under lights, through lyrics, in front of millions, doesn't just fade. It lingers in the songs, in the silence, in the things they don't say and now. With Selena engaged to someone else and Justin publicly unraveling in subtle, heartbreaking ways. It feels like the final chapter is trying to write itself. But some pages are still open. Asterisk, even after the wedding vows, the public scrutiny never stopped. Justin and Hailey didn't just marry each other, they married into a legacy. A legacy shaped by Jelena, by heartbreak anthems, by millions of fans who still believe the real story hadn't ended. Every time Justin looked distant in a photo, every time Hailey looked uncomfortable during an interview, every time Selena posted a cryptic lyric, the internet filled in the blanks, and that kind of pressure, it leaves marks. Their relationship hasn't been allowed to just be. It's been endlessly dissected, compared, pulled apart by people who don't know them but feel like they do. Justin has spoken openly about his struggles, anxiety, depression, the deep emptiness that followed. Years of global fame. He's never blamed Hailey, but some fans look at the timeline and can't help but wonder, was his marriage a sanctuary? Or a distraction? A genuine commitment or a rushed attempt to find peace after too much chaos? Hailey, to her credit, has remained by his side, loyal, grounded, supportive. She's talked about the weight of loving someone through storms and how, even in their hardest moments, she chooses to stay. But even her strength has been questioned. Online body language experts have gone viral pointing out concerning signs, the shut car doors, the blank stares, the long silences. These aren't just harmless observations anymore. They've become a narrative, one where Hailey is constantly measured against a ghost she never invited into the marriage. And the ghost? Her name is Selena. She's not trying to haunt anyone. She's moved on, visibly, vocally, with a man who makes her feel seen. Benny Blanco may not be a fairy tale prince in the eyes of the internet, but for Selena, he's real, steady, kind, someone who holds her hand without holding her back. And that's what makes this contrast so sharp. For the first time in over a decade, Selena looks free from the cycles, the comparisons, the emotional weight of loving someone who didn't know how to stay. She's building a life, talking about motherhood, singing from scars instead of open wounds, and yet Justin's presence lingers. Not just in her past, but in her audience's memory, in his own cryptic behavior, in the fact that every time Selena shines, people look to see if he's dimming. That's not fair. Not to Hailey, not to Selena, not even to Justin. But it's what happens when your love story was never just yours. It belonged to the world. Now, the chapter seems to be closing. Slowly, not with the door slammed shut, but with a quiet drifting apart, Selena has written her goodbye. Justin, it seems, is still searching for his. Maybe he'll find it. Maybe he won't, but one thing's clear no matter how far they go. Some stories leave echoes that never fully fade, even with rings on their fingers and years behind them. Justin and Hailey's marriage has always felt like it's standing in someone else's shadow. From the moment they said, "I do," the internet refused to let go of what came before. People didn't just see them as a couple, they saw them as a sequel. A follow-up to a love story that had gripped the public for nearly a decade. The expectations were never fair, but they were relentless. And no matter how many photos they posted, vacations they shared, or interviews they gave, it always felt like something was missing. Like a question still hung in the air. Is he really over her? Justin has never shied away from the truth about his struggles. He's admitted to battling depression, dealing with intense anxiety and feeling overwhelmed by fame. There have been moments of transparency, raw, honest confessions about not being ready for commitment, about hurting people, about trying to grow up under a microscope. But through all of that, one thing remained unclear. Was Hailey the healing? Or just the distraction? Did he marry her because he loved her, or because he needed something, anything to anchor himself as his world spun out of control? Hailey, meanwhile, has been the picture of stability. She's talked openly about the weight of loving someone with so many wounds, of staying when things got dark, of choosing commitment when it would have been easier to walk away. But even her devotion hasn't shielded her from scrutiny. Every move is analyzed, every smile questioned, every photo compared to the ones Justin once took with Selena. It's exhausting, not just for her, but for anyone watching closely enough to see how deep the comparisons cut. She's not competing with a woman, she's competing with a memory, with nostalgia, with the myth of a love that never fully died. And that myth, it's kept alive not by Selena, but by the world around her. Because while she's moved forward with quiet grace, the echoes of her past continue to trail behind her. Her music, her interviews, her growth, all of it points to someone who finally broke free, who let the pain transform her, not define her. In Benny Blanco, she didn't just find a partner, she found peace. He doesn't demand attention. He doesn't bring chaos. What he brings is presence, gentleness, the kind of love that doesn't need an audience to prove it exists. Selena's not performing strength anymore, she's living it. And that's what makes the contrast so jarring. While she speaks of motherhood, healing, and future plans with clarity, Justin's posts feel like fragments, bits, and pieces of a man trying to process something he can't quite name. There's a weight in his silence, a sadness in his timing. When he posted that photo in Costa Rica, soundtracked by a song about watching someone else's wedding from the sidelines, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like grief, a quiet kind of grief. The kind that creeps in when you realize someone you once knew like your own heartbeat is gone, not because of betrayal, not because of anger, but because time kept moving and you didn't, and now the roles have reversed. For years, it was Selena who sang through the heartbreak, who posted while the world wondered how she was really doing. Now she's glowing, steady, reclaiming her story, and it's Justin who's being watched. Every expression, every lyric, every pause. Not because people are rooting for him to fall, but because they're wondering if he ever really stood up from what broke him down in the end. This isn't just about Justin and Selena, or Hailey and Benny. It's about what happens when love lives too long in the public eye. When private heartbreak becomes global entertainment. When closure isn't a conversation, it's a trending topic. Selena may have written the final verse, but Justin hasn't sung his last line yet, and until he does, the world will keep listening.